been asking you about Shea for weeks.
Ask him.
For you first, I feel like it was a pretty good feeling to get your point guard back, even if it was 12 minutes due to different factors.
Yeah, I think we're hoping it's kind of around that mark tonight. Maybe potential to have a little bit more. I thought I was going to check him in with a couple of minutes to go, and I thought it wasn't worth doing that last little part. But yeah, one of our struggles this year without him has just been creation, and saw the effect he had on the game when he put his feet in the paint and Tuck already had a kind of connection. It's like if I just move and cut when he penetrates, then something good's going to happen. And we've been lacking transition points and lacking pace, and as a group, I think that we can really grow in that area and get some cheap points, and he's going to have a lot to do with that as well.
Shea, I imagine the contrast, I don't know whether it was frustration that was overwhelming, but being so close and trying to get back and seeing how the team was going to tonight be able to contribute, I imagine it was a pretty good feeling.
Yeah, it was an awesome feeling. I definitely felt like I could have helped the boys out for the first part of the season. But yeah, it was just good to get out there and finally help where I can.
There was a play in the fourth quarter where you dove on the floor, you get down the other end. There's no concerns or worries about being back out there after the long process to get back?
Yeah, no concerns. The medical staff did a great job of making sure I was symptom-free before I stepped on the court. And shout out to Steve and his team for getting me back.
Dean, just positionally, you kind of referenced it, but it felt like everyone's sort of maybe able to get closer to the role you envisioned. Even maybe Brad Muirley's been playing good minutes at the 4. Did it feel like just across the board there's better balance with not only Shea but Lockie Barker able to play a few minutes point guard there as well?
Yeah, Nils was great. That's 2 games in a row that it was kind of a little bit of a forced one in the Wollongong game to say, well, we're down another big, so let's try him at the 4, and I thought he defended that position well. There's a little bit more ball goes through the 4, and so there's some opportunities for him to get downhill, and once we saw an advantage, we started running plays for him to get downhill as well. Him and Barlow had a pretty good connection when they were on together as bigs about what they're able to switch and what they're able to slide through. And best game of the year for him, and for him to come 16 minutes and be plus 21, it's massive impact off the bench, which I thought, tonight, the role that Tuck played off the bench, coming in and playing 22 minutes, and I think most of the times he come out he called his own sub as well, so proud of the way he went about it tonight, to put him on Bryce Cotton and to chase around and do those things and cook himself and cut and do the things he did offensively, go grab rebounds. I thought it was a real impactful game from him off the bench. McQuatch goes 3 of 3. Some really good production off the bench tonight.
What about David Quera? You've been talking about a bunch of guys that you've had to throw in the rotation. He's been basically an every night player, but tonight again there seems to be a different level of comfort, and we saw what he can do in terms of protecting the rim with all the block shots. How have you seen his progression?
I guess when you talk about progression, you talk about trust as a coach, and that's really built over this little period where regardless of if the guy's a bit bigger and heavier, I thought he's handled that well. If he's a bit smaller and a bit quicker, I thought he's handled that okay. So just the multiple people, different guys that he's been able to guard, and different times he loves to protect the rim, and he probably overhelped a couple of different times and didn't quite recover as well. But I thought his initiation of the offense as well, when we throw it to him in just over the half, and he attacks downhill, and he's doing a good job with his ball handling and creating an advantage on the first side. He'll probably want that one back on the fast break, but that's just the growth of him as well. So love his rim protection. He can really shoot the basketball, and so I think we'll see more of that as the season goes along as well.
Do you think he was going off off the backboard. I was pretty happy that was the case.
That's kind of what we talked about as well. It's like if he had thrown that one off the backboard to himself, that would have been a great play. But yeah, I think he saw CG and the lane closed up, and I'm just not sure what he thought after that one.
Just coming on Xavier's game, it seemed like him and Tuck really, I mean, after it was quite a tight first quarter, but they just seemed to be instrumental in just breaking the game open and just ensuring you guys cruised pretty much after the quarter.
Yeah, and I think he's going to have, the biggest adjustment right now, X, in, what we've needed from him to have the ball in his hands as the only true point guard, and now as he just learns to play off the basketball with Shea and how those two can connect, and the luxury of him, if he does catch it in the backcourt, for Shea to move off the basketball, and how those two are going to play together is going to be really important. But yeah, he's got amazing confidence right now in his shot, and there was a period there where he took it on, and some of those times we've seen this season would say, well, that kind of stopped the ball moving, different things, but the ball moved in the first half, and we had 14 assists, and we did the things that we hadn't been doing, and so, a little bit of isolation later in the game and a little bit of, that kind of play, we can work that into our game.
Dean, the runs against you guys this season have been a problem, and we saw at the start of the second half they went on an 8-0 run. You didn't call a timeout, you let the guys play through it. Can you just talk through why that was, and I guess what you saw tonight in terms of kind of an evolution or a development in that process?
Yeah, I think that was the only period of the game that I thought we were just down a level of intensity at both ends, and we've had that. When we've had a lead at halftime, come out and we were a little bit happy with ourselves, and we just step it off a little bit. And yeah, I thought once I let that go, then we got 3 stops in a row, and so we were able to turn it around on the floor. And it was I think Blanchfield, and they decided to just run off turnouts and sprint off things, and Chris got angry at one that he didn't quite get there, and we quite didn't do the right thing defensively to help him. So yeah, when he had that kind of anger going, I knew the rest of the team would probably step it up and make sure that we change it around there.
Shea, sitting on the sidelines all this time, like what have you been able to learn, I guess, from that process that you were able to bring into tonight's game, or perhaps that you've shared with the team that you think maybe helped as well?
I feel like just the energy that I bring defensively kind of, spreads out around the group during the game. And I felt like that happened tonight. I felt like everyone did their part defensively. Tuck was great on the ball, especially against Bryce. X as well. Just kind of, the energy that I bring.
Coach, it was only 4 fast break points for you guys, but it did seem like there was a concerted effort to push it. You got Rajon, filling the wings, you got the defense that you guys played. Is that something that you guys are talking about, that you do want to push it and create in that way? Yeah,
we've got to find, cheap points. I don't think this team is built as good an offensive rebounding team as we've had in the past to really, I think David Quera is a lead at it. Ice is going to pick up a couple, and Tuck's going to pick up a few, but we're not a team that's probably going to average 12 offensive boards a game. And so, how else can we find those cheap points? It gets back to kind of who we want it to be, and that's play defense, get deflections, and start our pace a little bit. So I think there's a lot of learning. We've got to watch a lot of video about the opportunities that we did get, because we're a good defensive rebounding team. We're on one of the top 3 in the league in defensive rebounds. So if we can do that, get more stops, and make sure we space the floor and put our feet in the paint early in transition, I think we can start to get some more free throws, and we can start to get some wide open threes in transition. So yeah, it's an area that we want to lift.
It feels like this is the first game where you guys have really played to the identity that I think you're looking for with this team. Does that give you any indication of the player that you eventually bring in, as far as how that person fits and where that person fits, now that you know what this team looks like with Shea?
Yeah, we haven't rushed the process right now, and we got 2 more games against elite teams. One, Cairns are shooting the ball so well, and so many guys, and they play fast. And then we go against Southeast, to where right now with down a big, will be tested in that area. We'll find out, is this group capable of guarding, the multiple bigs that they have and those kind of things. So I think, we'll learn a lot in the next 2 games about what we need. Obviously, we've still got Mason Peatling to add back to the roster as well. So, we'll see what comes of these next 2 games.
Just on that Phoenix game, and last night Simon expressed a bit of delight in the fact that you had a pretty tough schedule heading into that game while they have the break. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it has. It's been hectic. You kind of just playing these double game weekends with the travel and. I know on game day I'm kind of nodding off, and where I normally stay pretty active, but you get some extra sleeps in. But it's fun, it's fun trying to coach with the limited preparation. How concise you can be with the things that really matter leading into games, and we've played well every time we've had a shoot around. And it's the ones that we haven't done a good job. A 2 o'clock game after travelling somewhere and not being able to give the detail that we've needed. So, if we get a shoot around, I feel pretty comfortable that we've got the message across that we need.
You mentioned the reasons why potentially it made sense to put Rajon to the second unit these last couple of games here with Shea and then X. We know X has played sort of 6-man role previously. I know starting doesn't necessarily mean everything, but do you see a swap there, or are you comfortable with this 5 at the moment?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it can be. I would like to get to the point where I think it's matchup based to say, which is, and I'll obviously go with who the best group is that I think can defend our opponents, and if we're selfless enough to buy into that about who starts and who defends the best, and who's living our values the best, and doing all those things. Because we started Lockie Barkham, we started David Aquera. They won our trademark award, and we had to make sure that we live true to say these are the guys that you think are doing the best job for our club and living our values. We got to reward them. So if we get to a point with this group to say we'll keep rewarding the guys that are doing the best thing and voted by the players, then I think we'll be in a great place.